My friend, let me ask you a question. Have you ever laid your head on your pillow at night, and though the world was quiet, your heart was still in turmoil? The truth is, no matter how strong we look on the outside, inside many of us carry storms. Some are battling fear, some are wrestling with guilt, and others are consumed by worry about tomorrow. And yet, deep within every heart is a cry for peace that no money, no success, no relationship, and no achievement can truly satisfy. The world promises peace through treaties, through power, through possessions, but the more we chase these things, the emptier we often become. History proves that kingdoms have risen and fallen, leaders have promised hope, but lasting peace has never been found through human strength. That is why we must look higher, deeper, beyond the resources of man. There is a key, an eternal key, that unlocks the door to peace no matter the chaos around you. That key is prayer. Prayer is not simply words spoken into the air. It is the opening of the heart to the one who holds all creation in his hands. It is the moment when the burden of your soul is lifted and you realize you are not alone. When you truly pray, peace enters, not the kind of peace the world gives, which fades when trouble comes, but the kind of peace that holds you steady when storms rage, when disappointments strike, and when fear grips your heart. This is a peace that surpasses understanding. It does not make sense to the human mind, yet it calms the deepest places of the human spirit. Think about it. When you begin to pray, something shifts inside of you. Anxiety begins to lose its grip. Fear starts to melt away. Hope rises where despair once lived. Prayer doesn't always change the circumstance instantly, but it always changes you. And when you are changed, the atmosphere around you begins to change too. Families are healed. Relationships are restored. Even communities can be transformed. This is why prayer is not meant to be an occasional cry of desperation, but a daily breath for your soul. Just as your body cannot live without air, your spirit cannot live without prayer. It is the pathway to lasting peace, not temporary relief, but the abiding assurance that no matter what comes, you are anchored in something greater than yourself. So today I urge you, don't wait until the crisis comes to pray. Don't wait until you are broken to call out. Begin now. Make prayer your lifestyle, your daily communion, your secret place of strength. Because prayer is not only the key, it is the master key to lasting peace. And when you take hold of this key, you will discover a peace that no storm can shatter, no enemy can steal, and no circumstance can destroy. Every human heart, whether young or old, rich or poor, strong or weak, carries within it a deep cry for peace. It is one of the most universal desires that unites all people across every nation, language, and culture. No matter how different our lives may appear on the outside, the inner longing is the same, the need for rest, for calmness, for assurance that everything will be all right. This longing cannot be silenced, no matter how much we try to cover it with noise, distractions, or achievements. It is a cry that keeps echoing within us, reminding us that life without peace is a heavy burden, and life with peace is a treasure beyond price. Think about how the world around us often looks. Nations strive for power, leaders debate over policies, societies chase after wealth, and individuals search for fulfillment through countless means. Yet beneath the surface of these pursuits lies unrest. You can walk into the busiest streets of a great city and see people hurrying, their eyes filled with ambition. But if you could see into their hearts, you would find many of them are anxious, lonely, and weary. You can look into the quiet home of a family that seems to have everything on the outside, comfort, possessions, respect from others, and yet behind closed doors, hearts are troubled, relationships are strained, and peace feels like a stranger. This reveals something that cannot be denied. Peace is not found in what we have, but in what we carry within us. The cry for peace often grows loudest in moments of trouble. When sickness strikes, when financial pressure rises, when the betrayal of a loved one cuts deep, when uncertainty about the future clouds the mind, suddenly the desire for peace becomes overwhelming. In those moments, people begin to realize that no possession can comfort the soul, no amount of knowledge can silence fear, and no outward strength can quiet the storm within. The cry for peace becomes desperate because deep down we know that life without it is unbearable. Without peace, even success feels hollow. Without peace, love feels fragile. Without peace, joy is quickly stolen. And without peace, hope struggles to survive. This inner cry for peace is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign of humanity. It is the evidence that we were created for more than struggle, more than chaos, more than endless battles. It is the whisper of eternity within us, reminding us that our hearts were designed to rest in something greater than ourselves. That is why no matter how far technology advances, no matter how much society develops, and no matter how many achievements mankind reaches, the longing for peace never goes away. Because true peace cannot be manufactured, it cannot be purchased, and it cannot be artificially produced. It must come from a deeper source. Many try to silence this cry through distractions. They fill their lives with entertainment, noise, or endless business, hoping that if they keep themselves occupied, they will forget the unrest inside. Others attempt to drown it out with substances, with addictions, or with harmful habits, only to find that once the moment passes, the unrest returns stronger than before. Some try to chase peace through relationships, thinking that if only they find the right person, their hearts will finally be at rest. Yet time and again they discover that no person can bear the weight of fulfilling a soul's deepest need. Still others believe that financial success or recognition will bring peace, but once the goal is reached, another hunger arises and the cycle of striving continues. This is why the cry of the human heart for peace is one of the strongest forces in life. It drives people to search, to seek, to knock on doors that promise answers. It pushes them beyond their comfort zones and causes them to reflect deeply on what truly matters. And it is in this cry that the heart becomes open, tender, and willing to hear the truth. Because when the search for peace leads to dead ends, and when the soul has exhausted every other path, the heart finally admits there must be another way. This cry is not hopeless, it is a guidepost. It is pointing us to the place where true peace can be found. There are moments in life when this cry becomes so clear it cannot be ignored. A person sits alone at night, long after everyone else has gone to sleep, and suddenly the emptiness in their heart rises to the surface. Tears fall without reason. Anxiety grows without warning, and a deep yearning for comfort overwhelms them. That is the cry for peace. Another person walks through a crowd smiling, laughing, appearing joyful, but inside they feel broken, unseen, and afraid. That hidden achy is the cry for peace. Still another person achieves something great, wins recognition, receives applause, but when the lights fade and the crowd disperses, they are left with a hollowness that no applause can fill. That emptiness is the cry for peace. This universal cry proves that peace is not just a desire, it is a necessity. Just as the body cannot survive without food and water, the soul cannot survive without peace. It is not an optional luxury, it is the foundation upon which a meaningful life is built. Without it, people crumble under the weight of stress, anxiety, and despair. With it, even the most difficult battles can be endured with strength and hope. Peace is the difference between living life as a constant struggle and living it as a purposeful journey. It is the difference between barely surviving and truly thriving. And so the cry for peace continues in every generation. Children long for peace in their homes, parents long for peace in their families, nations long for peace in their borders, and individuals long for peace in their hearts. This cry is not accidental, it was placed within us by design. It is the pull that leads us to the true source of peace, and until we find that source, the cry will never be silenced. That is why so many people, despite having everything the world says should make them happy, still feel restless. Because the cry for peace is not answered by things, it is answered by something far greater, something eternal. The most important thing to recognize is this: the cry of the human heart for peace is not a weakness to be ashamed of, but an invitation to discover the very thing we were created for. It is the voice within us that reminds us that lasting peace is possible, and that we do not have to settle for temporary fixes or fragile substitutes. It is the reminder that deep rest for the soul is real, and it can be found. Throughout history, mankind has searched for ways to create peace. Nations have risen and fallen. Leaders have promised hope. Treaties have been signed. Philosophies have been written. And yet the story of humanity continues to be marked by unrest, conflict, and division. This reality forces us to face a sobering truth: the solutions of men, however intelligent or well-intentioned, always fail to bring the kind of peace the human heart longs for. Time after time, generation after generation, humanity puts its hope in another system, another plan, another ideology, only to find that the old patterns of conflict reappear in new forms. No matter how advanced we become in science, technology, or culture, the cry of the human heart for peace remains unanswered by human effort alone. Think of how often peace has been promised in our world. Leaders campaign with promises of harmony. Governments sign treaties that pledge cooperation. Nations form alliances to prevent war. Yet history tells us that wars still come. Treaties are broken, alliances dissolve, and promises prove empty. For a short time it may appear that peace has been secured, but soon cracks begin to show and the fragile agreements collapse under pressure. Why is this? Because peace built on human strength depends on human perfection. And humans are not perfect. We are flawed, limited, and bound by self-interest. Where there is pride, selfishness, and greed, peace will always be temporary, never lasting. Even beyond nations and governments, look at individual lives. People often try to manufacture peace for themselves through wealth. They believe that if they could just earn enough, if their bank accounts were large enough, if their possessions were many enough, they would feel secure. And for a short time, money can create the illusion of peace. Bills are paid, luxuries are enjoyed, comfort surrounds them. But soon fear creeps in, the fear of losing it all, the worry of what tomorrow might bring. the anxiety that even wealth cannot silence. A person can be rich in possessions but poor in peace. Wealth can buy comfort, but it cannot buy rest for the soul. Others pursue peace through knowledge and education. They believe that if they could learn enough, read enough, or discover enough, their questions would be answered and their hearts would be at rest. Knowledge is a gift and education is valuable, but peace does not come through information. The more a person learns, the more they realize how much they do not know. And with that realization often comes more uncertainty, not less. Human wisdom can guide us in many areas of life, but it cannot reach into the deepest chambers of the soul and quiet the storm within. Knowledge alone cannot silence fear, cannot heal grief, cannot erase guilt, and cannot provide assurance for the future. Some turn to power as their solution. They imagine that if they could just rise high enough, gain enough control, influence enough people, they would feel secure and untouchable. But power, too, is an illusion. It may protect for a season, but it breeds fear, distrust, and enemies. The one who holds power must constantly fight to keep it, and the struggle for power is one of the greatest sources of conflict in history. Peace built on dominance is not peace at all. It is merely submission through fear, and when power shifts, as it always does, that false peace crumbles in an instant. Still others look for peace in relationships. They long for someone who will complete them, someone who will carry their burdens, someone who will erase their loneliness. Relationships are a beautiful part of life, but no human being can provide perfect peace. Even the most loving spouse cannot silence the fears of another's heart. Even the closest friend cannot fill the void of the soul. Human love, as powerful as it is, was never meant to replace the deeper peace that only the Creator can provide. When we expect people to be the answer to our inner cry, we place on them a burden they were never meant to carry. And the result is disappointment, brokenness, and further unrest. Others chase peace through pleasure. They convince themselves that if they can have enough fun, enough adventure, enough escape, the ache in their heart will disappear. They travel, they party, they indulge. They run after every experience the world has to offer. Yet when the music stops, when the laughter fades, when the lights go out, the emptiness is still there. Pleasure can distract the heart for a moment, but it cannot heal it. It numbs the cry for peace, but it never satisfies it. And the more a person chases pleasure, the louder the emptiness eventually becomes. And so we see the cycle repeated again and again. Humanity looks to wealth, wisdom, power, relationships, and pleasure as the answer. For a moment, peace seems within reach, but then it slips away. No matter how sincere the effort, human solutions fail because they treat the symptoms rather than the cause. They polish the surface while the foundation remains cracked. They offer relief without transformation. They may soothe for a day, but they cannot sustain for a lifetime. The reason human solutions fail is because the unrest of the human heart is not caused by outward circumstances alone. Conflict, fear, and anxiety do not begin outside of us. They begin within us. They spring from the soul, from the condition of our inner being. And if the problem is within, then no outward solution can fully cure it. You cannot heal a broken spirit with money. You cannot calm a restless soul with knowledge. You cannot erase guilt with power. You cannot silence fear with pleasure. Only something that reaches to the root of the heart can bring true, lasting peace. The failure of human solutions is not meant to lead us to despair, but to realization. It is meant to show us that we were never meant to find peace apart from a higher source. The emptiness we feel is not a curse. It is a signal. It is the soul's way of pointing us toward what is missing. It is the evidence that we were created for more than what the world can offer. If human solutions could satisfy, then by now humanity would have found peace, because every path has been tried. But the very fact that unrest continues proves that we must look beyond ourselves. And so the story of humanity remains the same. Brilliant minds attempt new ideas, powerful leaders make new promises, individuals chase after new dreams, and still the cry for peace echoes louder than ever. Human solutions fail not because effort is bad, not because wisdom is useless, not because wealth or relationships are wrong, but because they were never designed to bear the weight of the human heart's deepest need. They can assist, they can bless, they can improve life in many ways, but they cannot bring the lasting peace every soul longs for. That peace comes only when the source of peace is discovered, embraced, and made the center of life. Prayer is not man's invention. It is heaven's gift. It is not something we created as a way to cope with life's burdens. It is something placed into our very design by the one who made us. From the beginning of time, when human beings first walked the earth, there has been a longing to reach upward, to connect with something greater, to speak beyond the limits of our own voice. That longing is prayer. It is not a ritual of empty words, nor a performance to impress others. It is the divine gift that opens the door between earth and heaven, between a restless soul and the God who made it. To understand prayer is to understand that the Creator did not leave us to wander through this world alone. He gave us the ability to call on Him, to speak to Him, and to receive His peace in return. When a person prays sincerely, something supernatural happens. The atmosphere shifts, not necessarily outside, but within. Fear begins to lose its grip. Burdens that once felt unbearable suddenly feel lighter. A calm assurance enters the heart that cannot be explained by logic. Prayer has the power to reach where human solutions cannot reach, into the very center of the soul. This is why prayer is a gift. It brings heaven's resources into the struggles of earth. When the heart cries out in prayer, it is met not with silence, but with presence. And in that presence, peace flows like a river into places where anxiety once reigned. So many people think of prayer as a last resort, something to turn to only when everything else has failed. They say, I've tried everything else. Now all I can do is pray. But what they don't realize is that prayer was never meant to be the last option. It was meant to be the first. Prayer is not a weak backup plan. It is the strongest force available to the human heart. It is the opening of the door to the only true source of lasting peace. While human effort eventually reaches its limit, prayer connects us to a source that has no limits. While our wisdom is finite, prayer reaches the one whose wisdom is infinite. While our strength is fragile, prayer calls upon the one whose power never fails. Have you ever noticed that when a child is in distress, the very first instinct is to cry out? That cry is not a strategy. It is not a plan. It is the natural outpouring of dependence. In the same way, prayer is the soul's cry to its Creator. It is the instinct placed inside of us, the divine invitation that says, when you are weary, when you are afraid, when you are lost, you can cry out and you will be heard. This is why prayer is not only a gift, it is a miracle. The thought that the God who formed galaxies, who set the stars in place, bends His ear to hear the whisper of a troubled heart, that is beyond comprehension, and yet it is true. Prayer is heaven's way of saying you are not forgotten, you are not abandoned, and you do not walk alone. There are people who may say, but I've prayed, and I didn't see anything change. What they don't realize is that prayer is not always about changing circumstances. It is first about changing us. When we pray, the situation around us may remain for a time, but the storm within us begins to calm. The weight of fear is lifted, the grip of despair is loosened, and the heart begins to find strength again. Sometimes prayer does bring immediate breakthroughs, miracles, and visible change. Other times prayer gives endurance, courage, and peace to walk through the valley without being crushed by it. Either way, prayer never leaves us the same. That is the gift. Whether mountains move instantly or whether we are given strength to climb them, the peace of God fills us through prayer. The greatest evidence of prayer as a gift is found in the way it transforms lives. Countless people throughout history have testified that when they turned to prayer, they discovered strength they never knew they had. Broken families have been healed through prayer. Addictions have been broken through prayer. Nations in turmoil have found moments of peace through the cry of prayer. What human wisdom could not achieve, what wealth could not purchase, what power could not enforce, prayer has accomplished. That is because prayer connects us to the source of peace Himself, not just to ideas about peace. It is not theory, it is encounter. It is not philosophy, it is experience. Consider the moment when a weary soul kneels in the quiet of their room, away from the noise of the world, and begins to pour out their heart in prayer. No one else may hear them, but heaven hears. In that sacred exchange, something invisible yet undeniable happens. A sense of being heard, a sense of being loved, a sense of being held by something greater fills the heart. This cannot be explained away as mere psychology or self-comforting words. If it were only that, prayer would have died long ago as another human invention. But prayer has endured through centuries, across cultures, languages, and generations, because it is not of man, it is of God. It is the gift that cannot be erased, because it flows from the eternal into the temporal. Prayer is also a gift because it requires no qualifications, no payment, no special status. Anyone can pray. The wealthy and the poor, the educated and the uneducated, the strong and the weak. Prayer belongs to all. It is not reserved for the religious elite or the spiritually perfect. It is given freely to every human soul. This universality is what makes it so powerful. It levels the ground and reminds us that peace is not purchased by status or earned by effort. It is received as a gift through prayer. A whisper in the dark is just as powerful as an eloquent speech in a cathedral, because what matters is not the form, but the heart. The God who hears prayer is not impressed by words. He is moved by sincerity. Another reason prayer is heaven's gift is that it not only brings peace to individuals, but it ripples outward to touch others. When one person prays, they find peace. When families pray, relationships are mended and unity grows. When communities pray, barriers begin to break down and compassion begins to rise. And when nations pray, even in their darkest hours, light begins to pierce through the darkness. Prayer is never limited to the one who prays. It spreads its impact outward. That is why revivals, reforms, and great movements of change throughout history have so often been birthed in prayer. Because prayer does not only lift individuals, it lifts societies. This is why prayer must not be neglected. To ignore prayer is to neglect the very gift that was given to meet our deepest need. To treat it as optional is to walk past the key that could unlock the door to peace. So many live heavy lives simply because they refuse to kneel. They carry burdens they were never meant to carry, because they have not discovered the gift of laying them down in prayer. But for those who take hold of this gift, peace becomes not a fleeting visitor, but a lasting companion. My friend, if you want to know the true power of peace, do not search for it in the fleeting promises of the world. Do not rely on human strength that fails. Lift your heart in prayer. Speak honestly, pour out your soul, and you will discover that prayer is not only heard, it is answered. That answer may not always come the way you expect, but it will always come with the gift of peace. And when you discover that, you will know beyond doubt that there is a kind of peace that cannot be explained by the human mind, a peace that rises above logic, above circumstance, above all natural understanding. It is not dependent on what is happening around you, nor is it held hostage by the storms of life. It does not fade when trials come, and it does not collapse when pressure increases. This peace is not man-made, nor is it taught in universities, nor sold in the markets of the world. It is a gift that flows from heaven, and when it takes hold of a human heart, it creates calm in the midst of chaos. This is the peace that surpasses understanding. Everyone understands temporary peace. When bills are paid, when health is good, when family is in harmony, when there's money in the bank and food on the table, most people feel peaceful. But that kind of peace depends on everything going right, and life seldom gives us such perfect conditions. What happens when the doctor gives a report that shakes you? What happens when the job you depended on suddenly disappears? What happens when someone you trusted walks away? What happens when the world around you is filled with unrest and confusion? The peace that depends on circumstances cannot survive these moments. It crumbles, leaving the soul exposed, vulnerable, and afraid. But there is another kind of peace, a peace that remains steady even when the winds of life blow hard. That peace is not born of circumstance, but of the Spirit of God. When this peace fills a heart, it doesn't make sense to others. People look at you and wonder how you can be calm when everything around you is falling apart. They see you smile when you should be weeping. They see you steady when you should be breaking. They see you hopeful when you should be hopeless. And the only explanation is that you have tapped into something greater than the world. The peace that surpasses understanding is a peace that shields the heart and mind. It acts as a guard, protecting you from being consumed by fear, worry, or despair. It does not deny reality, but it transforms your response to it. Think of a storm at sea. The winds are freezing, the waves are high, and the ship is tossed about. Most people would be paralyzed by fear in such a storm. Yet imagine one sailor standing calmly, unmoved by the chaos. Others look at him in disbelief. How can he stand so steady? Doesn't he see the waves? Doesn't he hear the winds? The answer is that his calmness is not rooted in the storm, but in his trust that the anchor holds firm beneath the waters. That is what the peace of God is like. It is the anchor of the soul, keeping you steady when the storm rages. It is the deep assurance that you are not alone, that your life is in greater hands, that no storm can destroy you, because the one who calms storms is with you. This peace cannot be earned. You cannot work for it. You cannot buy it. You cannot achieve it by willpower. It is received, it is given, and it is found in prayer, in surrender, in opening your heart to the presence of God. When you kneel in prayer and pour out your burdens, something supernatural happens. The fear that once ruled your heart begins to fade. The anxiety that once kept you awake at night begins to lift. The thoughts that once tormented you are replaced with assurance. This transformation cannot be explained in natural terms because it does not come from human ability. It surpasses understanding because it is not of this world. One of the most powerful things about this peace is that it works even in the darkest valleys. Many people believe that peace means the absence of problems, but this peace is proof that you can have problems and still walk in rest. You can face loss and still find comfort. You can encounter sickness and still hold on to hope. You can go through trials and still remain unshaken. This peace does not eliminate difficulties, but it equips you to walk through them without being destroyed by them. It is the difference between sinking in the waters and walking upon them. This peace is also unexplainable because it brings joy where joy makes no sense. When others expect you to collapse, you rise stronger. When others expect you to curse, you give thanks. When others expect you to give up, you press forward. This is not because of inner strength alone, but because of divine peace that fills you. People may look at you and think, what is different about them? How can they endure this? And your answer will always be that the peace you carry is not your own. It was given to you by the one who is the Prince of Peace. Another reason this peace surpasses understanding is because it lasts. Human peace comes and goes like the tide. One day you feel fine, the next day you are anxious again. One day you are happy, the next day your joy is gone. But the peace of God abides. It remains constant through ups and downs. Even when emotions fluctuate, this peace stays as an undercurrent in your life. It is deeper than feelings, deeper than moods, deeper than situations. It becomes the steady rhythm of your soul, reminding you that no matter what happens around you, there is a calm within you. And this peace is not limited to personal struggles. It has the power to affect relationships, families, and even communities. When individuals are filled with this peace, they respond differently to conflict. They speak words of kindness instead of anger. They forgive when others hold grudges. They build bridges instead of walls. Peace in the heart produces peace in the home. And when peace fills homes, it spills into society. This is why the world cannot be changed by politics or programs alone. It must be changed by transformed hearts filled with peace that surpasses understanding. The truth is, everyone desires this kind of peace, but not everyone is willing to seek it. Many settle for temporary fixes. They chase distractions, numbing their pain rather than addressing it. They depend on substances, entertainment, or shallow relationships to dull the ache inside. But all of these substitutes wear off, and when they do, the unrest returns stronger than before. That is why the peace of God is so different. It is not shallow, it is not temporary, it is not a bandage over a wound. It is healing from within, strength from above, life flowing into weary places. When you find this peace, it changes how you live every day. You wake up not dreading the unknown, but resting in assurance. You face challenges not with panic, but with confidence. You interact with others not out of fear or insecurity, but out of stability and love. It is not that life becomes perfect, but that you become anchored in something unshakable. And as you continue to walk in prayer, surrender, and trust, this peace grows deeper until it becomes the very foundation of your existence. The peace that surpasses understanding is the greatest treasure a human being can possess. It is worth more than wealth, more than fame, more than success, more than power. For what good is all the world if your heart is in turmoil? But if your heart is at rest, even the smallest blessings of life feel rich. That is the gift of peace. Not the absence of trouble, but the presence of calm in the middle of it. It is not natural, it is supernatural. It cannot be explained. It must be experienced. And once you have tasted it, you will never again be satisfied with the shallow imitations the world offers. Prayer is heaven's greatest gift to man. Peace always begins in the heart of an individual, but it is never meant to stay there. When true peace enters a life, it begins to flow outward, touching everything and everyone connected to that life. The transformation that happens within a person does not remain hidden. It radiates into their words, their actions, their relationships, and even the atmosphere around them. One heart at peace can bring calm to an entire household. One soul anchored in God can shift the climate of a workplace. One individual who carries peace can inspire an entire community. That is the nature of true peace. It does not stop with the individual. It multiplies, and in multiplying, it impacts the world. Consider a person who once lived in constant anxiety. Every conversation was tense. Every day was filled with fear, and those around them often felt the weight of their unrest. Their family walked on eggshells. Their friendships were strained, and even their health began to deteriorate. But then something happened. They discovered prayer, they opened their heart, and they received the peace that surpasses understanding. Suddenly, the change was visible. They smiled where they once frowned. They listened with patience where they once snapped in anger. They rested where they once worried. The peace inside them began to bring healing outside them. Their family felt it. Their friends noticed it. People who knew them before began to wonder what has happened, and without even realizing it, their personal peace became a testimony that touched others. This is how true peace works. It is not selfish. It is not contained. It is contagious. When someone is filled with unrest, that unrest spreads like poison to others. But when someone is filled with peace, that peace spreads like light in the darkness. A calm presence in a chaotic room can change the atmosphere. A steady voice in the midst of fear can restore hope. A forgiving heart in a world of bitterness can open the door to reconciliation. That is why the first step to impacting the world is allowing peace to reign in your own heart. You cannot give what you do not have, but once you have it, you cannot help but give it away. History itself shows us the ripple effect of peace. Movements of change, healing, and revival have so often started with just a few individuals who carried inner peace and refused to let circumstances shake them. Their courage inspired others. Their calmness gave strength to those around them. Their prayers lit a fire that spread beyond what anyone expected. One voice of peace can silence a multitude of voices of fear. One act of forgiveness can stop the cycle of hatred. One decision to walk in peace can redirect the future of a family for generations. This is why personal peace is so powerful. It is not the end, it is the beginning. Think of families. A parent who carries peace influences their children more than they realize. Children may not understand all the struggles of life, but they can feel the atmosphere of a home. When a parent prays, trusts God, and lives with peace, it creates a safe environment where children grow strong and secure. That peace teaches them how to respond to life's challenges. It plants seeds in their hearts that will grow for years to come. Long after the parent is gone, the memory of their calm faith will guide the children. That is world impact, because shaping the next generation is one of the greatest ways to change the future. Think of friendships and communities. A person who carries peace will approach conflict differently. Instead of fueling arguments, they bring calm. Instead of spreading gossip, they speak words that heal. Instead of holding grudges, they choose to forgive. Over time, this changes the tone of conversations, the strength of friendships, and even the unity of communities. In a world filled with division, one peaceful voice stands out like a lighthouse in the storm. People are drawn to it. They begin to wonder why that person is different, why they do not collapse under pressure, why they shine with hope when everything around them seems bleak. And the answer always points back to the peace of God. Even nations have been influenced by the prayers and peace of faithful individuals. Great awakenings, reformations, and movements that changed history did not begin with armies or governments, but with hearts on their knees in prayer. When enough people begin to live in peace and walk in prayer, the spiritual climate of entire nations shifts. In times of crisis, the prayers of the faithful have often turned the tide. Peace in the heart leads to peace in the world, because it aligns people with the source of true peace. This is why it is so important not to underestimate the power of your own transformation. Sometimes we think, I'm just one person. What difference can I make? But one person at peace can make more difference than 100 people in turmoil. One family transformed by peace can influence neighbors, schools, workplaces, and communities. One community walking in peace can become a beacon to a nation. And one nation that seeks peace through prayer can influence the world. The chain always begins with an individual, but it never ends there. It is also worth remembering that peace makes you an example even when you don't realize it. People are watching you, your children, your friends, your coworkers, your neighbors. They may never say it aloud, but they see how you respond to hardship. They see whether you crumble or stand firm. They see whether you lash out in anger or answer with grace. And when they see peace ruling your heart, they notice, even if they don't immediately say anything, your life becomes a silent sermon, declaring that true peace is real and available. The world today is desperate for such examples. People are tired of empty promises and shallow solutions. They are longing for something real, something that works not just in good times, but in hard times. And when they see peace in you, they see the evidence they've been searching for. They may not understand it. They may even mock it at first, but deep down they will desire it. And when the time comes, they will remember the peace they saw in you and ask, how can I find that? In that moment, your personal peace becomes their open door to discover the source of it. This is the divine design of peace. It is not meant to be hoarded, but to flow like a river. The river of peace begins in the heart, but it does not stop there. It flows to the family, to friends, to neighbors, to communities, to nations. Its impact can stretch further than you will ever know. You may never see the full results of your peaceful life, but eternity will reveal the ripple effect. One prayer spoken in faith may inspire another prayer in someone else. One act of peace may prevent a chain of anger from destroying a family. One life transformed may influence countless others. So never underestimate the power of personal peace. It is more than comfort for your soul. It is a calling for your life. You are not meant to simply receive peace and keep it to yourself. You are meant to carry it, live it, and spread it. You are meant to become a living testimony of the peace of God, a light shining in the darkness, a voice of calm in a noisy world. And as you do, your life will not only be transformed, but the world around you will be touched. There comes a moment in every life when we must decide whether prayer will be something occasional or whether it will become the very breath of our existence. Too often, people treat prayer like an emergency tool, something to pull out when the storms of life grow too heavy or when the heart is overwhelmed by fear. But prayer was never meant to be a last resort. Prayer was meant to be the first response, the daily rhythm, the steady heartbeat that sustains our walk through life. The truth is that peace cannot be sustained if prayer is not sustained. A single prayer may bring comfort for a moment, but a life of prayer brings lasting peace. That is why the call is not simply to pray sometimes, but to make prayer your lifestyle. Prayer is not meant to be a ritual performed at set hours with no life in it. It is not just words recited from memory or whispered in desperation when all else has failed. Prayer is relationship, it is conversation, it is communion, it is the soul reaching out to God, not once in a while but constantly, like a child reaching for the hand of their father as they walk together. Prayer is not confined to the four walls of a church or the quiet moments of a morning. It is meant to walk with you in the marketplace, at your workplace, in your car, in your home, in your moments of joy, and in your moments of pain. Prayer becomes a lifestyle when it flows through every part of your day, not as an interruption, but as the very atmosphere in which you live. When prayer becomes a lifestyle, peace becomes unshakable. You no longer have to wait for the right moment to reach out to God because He is already in every moment. The conversation is never cut off. It continues from sunrise to sunset and into the night. Even in silence, your heart is tuned to Him. Even in busyness, your spirit remains aware of His presence. That awareness becomes the anchor of your peace. You are no longer tossed by every wave of circumstance because you are connected to the one who stills the storm. Prayer, then, is not just an activity, it is a dwelling place. You live in it, you breathe in it, you move in it. Too many lives remain in turmoil because prayer has been relegated to the background. People often think they can maintain peace by controlling circumstances, by trying harder, by fixing everything in their own strength. But peace cannot be manufactured. It flows only from the presence of God, and His presence is accessed through prayer. That is why making prayer your lifestyle is not optional if you truly desire lasting peace. Without it, even the strongest will break. With it, even the weakest will stand. The power of peace lies not in human effort, but in divine connection, and prayer is that connection. Think of prayer like breathing. You don't breathe once in the morning and then expect to survive the rest of the day without air. You breathe continually because life depends on it. In the same way, prayer must become continual because your peace, your strength, and your direction depend on it. When you inhale the presence of God through prayer, you exhale peace into the world around you. When you pause in the midst of chaos to whisper a prayer, you bring heaven into your moment. When prayer becomes as natural to you as breathing, then peace becomes as steady as your heartbeat. There is a danger in limiting prayer to only emergencies. If you only pray when life is falling apart, then you miss the beauty of walking with God in the ordinary moments. Peace is not meant to be something you search for only when you are desperate. It is meant to be something you carry always. The secret of carrying it is simply stay connected. Don't wait until you are drowning to cry out. Learn to talk with God while you are still walking on calm waters. Let your days be marked with moments of quiet conversation, not just long, drawn-out prayers, but simple words of gratitude, short whispers of surrender, silent acknowledgments of His presence. This is what it means to make prayer your lifestyle. It becomes woven into everything you do. The beauty of such a life is that prayer begins to reshape the way you think, the way you speak, and the way you live. The constant awareness of God's presence shifts your perspective. Problems no longer look impossible because you see them through the lens of faith. Decisions no longer seem overwhelming because you are guided by wisdom greater than your own. Fear no longer grips your heart because you are resting in the assurance that you are not alone. Slowly, prayer transforms you until you begin to walk in a peace that others cannot understand, a peace that endures even when the world shakes. When prayer becomes your lifestyle, you also become an intercessor for others. You begin to carry not only your own burdens, but the burdens of your family, your friends, your community, even your nation. Instead of complaining about what is wrong, you bring it into the presence of God. Instead of being consumed by fear for the future, you place the future in His hands. The more you pray, the more you realize that peace is not just for you, it is meant to be shared. You become a channel of peace, someone whose prayers open the door for God's power to move in places you may never physically reach. It is important to recognize that making prayer your lifestyle is not always easy. Distractions will come. Life will try to pull you away. You will feel tired, busy, even tempted to rely on yourself. But peace is too precious to be left unguarded. Just as you would not go days without food or water, do not go days without prayer. Even a few minutes can realign your heart. Even a few words can remind you that God is near. It is not the length of the prayer that sustains you. It is the consistency of it. A drop of water may seem small, but over time it shapes stone. In the same way, small but steady prayers shape your heart and fill your life with lasting peace. The call today is clear. Prayer must move from being something you occasionally do to becoming who you are. It must be the constant rhythm of your life, the language of your soul, the thread woven through every moment of your day. If you desire lasting peace, you cannot afford to neglect prayer. It is the key that unlocks the door, the light that guides your steps, the anchor that holds you steady. Without it, peace will slip through your fingers. With it, peace will never leave you. So take this moment and decide that prayer will no longer be an afterthought. Let it be your lifestyle. Let it be your daily bread and your living water. Walk with it in the morning, carry it into the night. Let prayer become the song in your heart, the whisper on your lips, the strength in your spirit. And as you do, you will discover that peace will not only enter your life but remain. It will not be temporary but lasting. It will not be fragile but strong. And through your life of prayer, that peace will touch the world around you in ways you could never imagine.